presentation last year, and it's been 1 year, and time really flies fast. And I feel bad for getting old. But anyways, that being apart, and thanks again for joining today. So without further ado, let's jump into the session. And yes, so we have it's basically just a quick intro about the event, and it's a 1 day virtual event, and we have tons of hands-on sessions by experts and community leaders. And we'll have a deep dive sessions into Microsoft Cloud Services. As you can see, there are multiple streams being running throughout the day, and the focus is on Azure security and compliance, Microsoft 365 security and compliance, and Power Platform endpoint security, which is what we are going to cover a bit on that. And don't forget, there are exciting prizes waiting for you to win the Lenovo Tab and Eco Show 8 and Boat Blaze smartwatch to get your fit. And also we work for the support cause, as you know, like giving is receiving and sharing is caring, and like make sure you donate whatever is possible. And without further ado, we'll see the session, and we got a session on the deep diving into Power Platform governance and security. And that's a quick introduction about myself. And myself, Jiva Rajan. You can call me Jiva. I'm working as an architect in Fusion 5, and I'm based out of Auckland. I'm a Microsoft Business Application MVP, Microsoft MCT, and I also lead Singapore Dynamics 365 and Power Platform user group, and also ASEAN's BizApps user group. And I have Dharani Dharan as co-presenter with me. Dharani, you would like to introduce yourself?
Yep, thanks, Shiva. Hey, hello everyone. Thanks everyone for joining today. And once again, thanks a lot for all the organizers for providing us this wonderful opportunity. Myself, Dharanidharan Balasubramaniam, and today I'm with Jiva to present the topic on deep dive into Power Platform security and governance. I'm based out of Sydney. I work as a senior manager with Capgemini Australia. And I'm a Microsoft MVP in the business applications area, and also I'm a Microsoft MCT. I'm leading the Malaysia and Tamil Nadu Dynamics 365 and Power Platform user group. And also I'm a part of ASEAN's business applications user group. And apart from this, like I do like write a technical blogs, and I will share my technical blog link and the LinkedIn handle in the chat window. Please feel free to follow us. And in case if you're stuck somewhere on the Power Platform or the Dynamics 365 side, please feel free to reach out to us. We're always happy and glad to assist you on your queries.
Yep.
Yeah, over to you, Jiva.
Sweet. Thank you so much, Dharani. With that, like I'll also quickly share the reference links here. Otherwise, we might run out of time because I see the content can go for it will be close one. So here's the LinkedIn URL of my LinkedIn URL, and you can please feel free to connect with me. And let's say for you. And there is also a link for our meetup. I'm just sharing here so that you can be in touch with us in terms of Power Platform and Dynamics. This is Singapore user group meetup that I shared now. Also shared quickly on the Tamil Nadu user group meetup link. Just a moment. Sorry, Rohit, I don't take more than 30 seconds for this one. Yeah, there you go. So we focus on Dynamics 365 and Power Platform, and just that's a quick drop the links there in the chat for you to connect and follow up if there is any query on that. Then feel free to chat, drop your profile link as well when you get a chance. So
yeah,
yes,
done, Jiva. Yeah.
Sweet. All good. And today's the agenda is going to be an introduction on the Power Platform. So this will really help for our dear attendees who are new to Dynamics 365 Power Platform. And yes, so next we will be focusing into governance requirements as per, like what are the requirements in terms of we got in terms of governance. I'm also making I'm keeping an eye on the chat if there's anything Please feel free to unmute. Or no, I'm also gonna keep checking the chat for you to make sure I don't miss anything there. And then we will follow up with the governance requirement, then followed by security requirements, and then a nice demo from Dhanani if bandwidth supports, since he's out now due to some personal emergency. And yes, so that's a quick introduction about ourselves and the agenda, and let's jump into the overview of our platform. So, how many of you have used any components or any products of Power Platform? Can you please raise your hand? One, two, three. Sweet. So that's total three of us. That's including Dharani. Dharani is excluded, so that's two. And then definitely, I think I should cover this introduction. So if we had more, probably I would have skipped it. But having said that, now we have quite a beginners here. It's really good to know the Power Platform. So a Power Platform itself, it's basically a low code, no code component. So you might have heard this term, everyone talking about a no code, low code, right? So what it does is basically it uh, the demand that the market has, the demand of application that's required in real time to support the business is huge when compared to the amount of developers or the experts we have today. So that's where the low code revolution has started. And Microsoft is one of the leading providers of the low code and no code platform, which is Power Platform. So basically, you can build enterprise grade applications in matter of hours, and that too with the limited skill sets. So you don't need necessarily professional developers all the time. Certain amount of applications can be built by the citizen developers or so-called the citizen developers is nothing but someone who knows the business well, might not be a developer, might not be a technical person, but he can or she can do it herself. So if HR, for example, would like to automate certain things in terms of, let's say, some HR process or recruitment process, he or she can basically build out a Power Platform or Power Apps from the Excel data, whatever he or she has, and then use it for internal purpose or for external purpose as well in matter of hours or days without any coding or skills. So that's what the beauty of Power Platform, and that's why it's a revolutionary product, right? In terms of providing the capability for anyone to build the app. There are plenty of stories in the market, customer success stories. You can see where customers have who has no idea, who have no technical experience, have built amazing applications without writing single line of code. So there is, I won't say without single line of code, there are formulas instead of code similar to your Excel formulas. So it's called Power FX that will be used in Power Apps instead of the actual code. That's what they have done. And you can definitely have a code and include the code and extend the application using code. And in fact, the truth is for several enterprise applications, you still need a professional developers most of the time. It's only at smaller scale you will not need them. So that's why you see the Power Platform for everyone as a tagline here. And as part of the Power Platform, there will be there Power BI, which is your business analytics tool, and dashboard. You can build amazing reports and dashboards with Power BI also. And there's the Power Apps, which is the apps itself. So there are two types of Power Apps. One is Canvas apps, other one is model-driven apps. So model-driven apps is something where you start with the data model. So model-driven apps itself provides the user interface and all the it works on the dataverse. So dataverse is a separate concept that I have to explain separately. It's not just a simple database like SQL. It works on top of SQL where you have database, and then you have business rules, you have pre-built set of fields like created date, modified date, created on, modified on, owners, all those things, and tons of workflows. And then like all this schema and metadata has been comes as part of the database. So model driven apps is something that we use when you start with data model and then build the apps. A Canvas app is something you start with the UI. So you start with the UI and from the scratch or from the templates or from the community templates that's built by the experts, and then you can use any database instead of just Dataverse. So you can use even just Excel with Canvas app, it can do wonders, or you can use OneDrive or whatever it is. So that's the two type of apps. And then the third pillar here is Power Automate. It's a workflow automation, as it says. So again, it's a low code or no code designer, where similar to drawing a flow chart. If you have used Logic apps, you might know what I'm talking about in Power Automate. So Power Automate is built, in fact, on top of the Logic app framework. So it's very similar to Logic app, where you just drag and drop the actions and then build the rules for the integrations or any workflow automations. And then you have Power Virtual Agent. The Power Virtual Agent is a low code platform to build chatbots. So it basically uses your Azure Cognitive Services behind the scene, but it's basically, instead of developers to build the chatbot from the scratch, what Microsoft has done is it has provided a framework or a studio where you can basically drag and drop the steps, and then it to build a chatbot by the business people, as say citizen developers, who's called the business. I mean, who are basically the business people, or someone who's not technically expert can do something. And similarly, they can build app, they can also build chatbot. And the last one that's new to the family is the Power Pages. Well, it was part of Power Apps before, but they have taken it out and put a separate product itself, because it has its own SKUs and licenses itself. So Power Pages is again a low code website, a web application development product, where you can basically build an application without writing a code to a certain extent. You can drag and drop, and then you can define the security and the access and as such, right? So we are not going to see today on demo of each of these things. That's totally out of scope of this session, but rather we will focus on how to govern the applications and build the security on these applications or on these pillars, what we are saying now at certain level. Yeah. Any doubts so far? Please unmute and ask questions. Otherwise, you can also drop the questions in the chat, and we will see it along the way. Sweet. And we'll move on to the next one. So next one is, you can see the how at very high level the product sits in, right, in the overall Microsoft cloud stack. So you can see that the Power Platform over here, it's the L shape, inverted L shape. You can see the components that we discussed now, and you also see Microsoft Dynamics 365. So Microsoft Dynamics 365 is it's a massive set of applications that build on top of Power Platform, which comes with, it has a CRM part and ERP part. Let's not go into details of that. And then you have Microsoft 365, which is a powerful collaboration tool that Teams and SharePoint comes into the picture. And you have all those industry specific components that's been built on top of this Power Platform and Dynamics 365 and Microsoft 365 stack, like your healthcare accelerators, different industry accelerators. And under the hood, end of the day, Azure is the hero. So all the infrastructure and the setup is built on top of Microsoft Azure. And as you can see, the green little guy over there, which basically represent the universe, is the Dataverse, and which I was talking about. And Dataverse sits as part of the Azure, and then you have the Synapse, and then machine language and cognitive services, and so and so. And under the hood, it's completely supported by Microsoft safe and secure cloud infrastructure, which manages the identity, security, and the compliance. And with that, we are actually getting into the actual topic of the day, which is governance in Power Platform. So what is governance in Power Platform? So governance, imagine any enterprise implementation or any actual implementation, you'll have lots of applications and workflow automations, or any of the components that we just saw now as part of the Power Platform. Once the thing here is, we are talking about low code, no code platform, which means we are talking about giving the flexibility to citizen developers or not the actual technical developers. Well, they will be part of that as well. On top of that, you're also giving the provision to a HR person or a finance person or end user or someone, a vendor to build an app for themselves, right? So you can imagine then the whole governance and administration takes a huge part here, and that's what the Power Platform governance is going to focus on. So how do you govern that? Make sure there is no the security is maintained. There is no compromise in the security. There is no that the resources are utilized properly and effectively, right? And how because the moment you give flexibility to everyone to create an app, they're just going to try random stuffs right there, right? And you have to manage the resources and the licenses and everything there. And that's what the whole purpose of the Power Platform governance, of course, on top of the organization policy and the regional policy. So all these things will be considered into the picture. So as you can see, the first point here is basically it's an organizing or a governance body to ensure that the projects stay secure and compliance with the regulations like GDPR, personal information data protection, and like whatnot. And yeah, and also the company, if there is any company or the industry, like the government industry or banking industry, if they have their own policies, those needs to be considered as well. And second point is declutter and organize your environment. That's what I was talking about now. So when you have tons of applications been created in the environment by the people, you need to be able to declutter them and organize them and manage them and clean them and safely expose them. So all this, have to be done. So that's where the Microsoft provides different tools for just for this itself, which is again a Canvas app or model-driven app, which basically you control the app. It's like a destroying stones by the stone, as they say in Avengers, something like that. You manage the apps by the app itself. And you got Power Platform usage and defining new processes for your business, and you also can do the foundation of the adaptation of platform at a scale. Do not underestimate this statement: foundation of adaptation of the Power Platform, which means it's not just about managing the created application, it also encouraging or facilitating some more citizen developers, more business people, to welcome them and then encourage them to create the applications, right? And that's the adoption. And there's a whole set of framework and processes which comes as part of something called Power Platform COE Toolkit, which I actually took last time in the ICS 2022, 2021. But we are not going to go into details of how that toolkit to be installed or maintained. I believe there should be a recording of the last year's one, and you can please feel free to refer Dharani's blog for some of the data around that. And next is the key business concerns. So why we need this? There should be transparency, because when someone is creating app, the administrators and the other super users should be aware of the apps that the people are creating there, and the waste unused apps can always there will be unused apps and your environment can get bloated, and that's why you should basically manage that apps as well. And data management, the moment you create more data, see the moment you create more apps, which means it's going to be the entry point where there are going to be more data flowing in. And the moment you have automations, that's where the entry point where the data is going to come via the integrations or connectors. So you need to manage that as well. And security, which is the key point here. So when you provide option to someone who is not an technical expert, right, there are going to be series of problems if you're not going to manage security well. And as a governance, we should be very careful to make sure the security is managed. That's why it's important part of the overall governance of the application and the efficiency of the apps that's been built and the overall process management. Yeah. So in one liner, one step back to recap whatever we discussed so far in the last 20 minutes. So we saw what is Power Platform and what are the pillars of Power Platform. And we saw why we need governance, because, as I said, the advantage of Power Platform is to basically build tons of apps and sorry, advertise of Power Platform is to build uh, apps by the citizen developers and by the business people to basically cater the massive gap that we have in the industry today. And the moment you step into that area, you need to govern the application. You need to govern the process. You need to encourage people to build more application. You have to manage the existing application. You have to manage the security around the application. You have to manage data around the application. That's what we have seen so far. Okay. And we're going to next step into some processes or steps involved in the governance. So as you can see, you got first step is securing your tenant. So a tenant is something, well, you might know an Azure tenant, right? Like people who have used Azure. So similar to that, you have a tenant, and then you should be monitoring and your tenant, and because there'll be environments that will be part of tenants. There'll be multiple environments across one tenant. So if I have one tenant, I can have dev environment, test environment, pre-production environment, UAT environment, all those things. So you have to maintain secure your tenant and your environments under the tenant. You have to monitor tenant activity, like what level of automations is happening, what level of data being exchanged with the external system, how many APIs being called per day, per X time window, and what are the applications and the workflow automations have been used actively and not used. So all those should be part of tenant. Part of tenant management or environment management, and then create alerts to basically take an action if something is happen as not expected, and then definitely enabling your citizen developers. Citizen developers are equal to business people or non-technical people who can also create the applications. Okay, simple as that. And the next one is going to be the center of excellence, which is I just spoke a bit about this earlier. A center of excellence is, as you know, like in any organization, there'll be a center of excellence team. And Microsoft Center of Excellence for Power Platform Center of Excellence, as you can see, it has four major areas. One is the basically the overview, basically where you define the goals and expect the outcomes of your COE. And administrations, as I said, get the insights of your Power Platform. Adoption, like how many users have adopted and how many apps have been built and what are the most used, the celebrated apps, what are the apps that are not used effectively, and govern the thing. And you can see governance is part of COE, which we discussed now, and nurturing is increasing the adoption and thriving the community of the app makers, bringing in more app makers into the development. And there's a COE toolkit as a solution itself, which has necessary tools to do this. And that's what I did last year as a demo in ICT, but you can definitely find lots of content on the internet as well. And before getting into security, the last one about this is ALM with Microsoft Power Platform. Dharani, do you want to talk about something around the ALM? You are the best person to explain ALM quickly and briefly.
Sure, Jiva. Since Microsoft want to bring a strong governance into this all their implementations, so the Microsoft has come up with the ALM process. Initially, the Microsoft has used this for one of their the product and one of their ISP extensions. And then later point of time, they said like they wanted to define strong rules and guidelines for implementing the ALM for all the Power Platform implementation. So that's how the Microsoft has launched this the ALM, and they have given the Microsoft build tools where you can deploy the solution from one environment to another environment using an automated way, and then you can provision an instance, and you can back up the instance, and you can deploy the changes, and you can run the regression testing. So all those things that the Microsoft has given the Microsoft build tools, you can leverage those build tools and you can start building your own ALM pipelines. But in case if you want to if you don't want to spend time on building the pipelines, then even Microsoft has introduced the ALM accelerator for the Power Platform. So you can leverage that ALM accelerator. You need some of the premium features in order to install the ALM accelerator. And if you are having that the premium features, then you can leverage the ALM accelerator, and you can bring the strong governance into your organization for all your Power Platform implementations. Yep. Yeah, over to you, Jiva. I think Jiva, you're speaking on mute.
That's nice. Thanks for reminding. Yeah, that's nice. A brief description, I would say, about the ALM process. But if you want to check about ALM process, I strongly recommend to check that in his blogs and his videos. He has done a separate course on ALM itself, and even he recently last week he spoke about this kind of hands-on experience or hands-on session on ALM for like 4 hours last week, and the video is also out there. And I strongly recommend to check. Dharani, maybe you can share that video in the chat later. And sweet. And that's the high level overview on the governance. And next is security, right? That this is where things get serious when it comes to security in terms of like your application. Right. So the first one, how do we secure Power Platform? So Power Platform security starts in different level and different layer. It starts with Azure security groups, as you can see here. So if you use Azure, you might know what is Azure security group, or if you're using Microsoft 365, you know what is security group as well. So yeah, uh, security group is the starting point or a very high level where you can have users added to it, and then we can assign the roles. We'll see what are roles shortly. And then at the tenant level or the environment level, you'll have data loss prevention policies. So these data loss prevention policies are basically that's gonna control what kind of connectors the users can use when they use the automations or they use the Power Apps. You can have a business. There are category of DLP, data loss prevention policies, and that will basically enforce that only the users can only use. Let's say if you want to block Dropbox connector, for example, at the tenant level, the moment you have the policy for that, nobody in your tenant can use the Dropbox to connect to Dropbox in no matter what way they use in Power Platform architecture. And the next level of security is specific to dataverse security. So dataverse security itself is it's quite a massive content to be discussed, and which we will discuss, right? And we'll see each one of these what they mean in detail, and then followed by a demo. But the best practices in terms of keep building the security, in one liner, grant access to only data that's only needed. So if you think certain set of users need only to read certain data, just give them read permission. Don't just give the write or any permission detail. And we'll see how in Dataverse or Power Platform that the security can be controlled. Don't get confused with Dataverse. What is this? Jiva was talking about Power Platform, so Power suddenly stepped into Dataverse. So as I said previously, if you've seen the architecture diagram I showed, Dataverse is it's a database, not database, it's an underlying platform where on top of that Power Platforms are built. So in terms of security, it applies at the Dataverse level. So the first one is the business unit. So a business unit is basically a logical group of related business activity. So if you think about an organization, let's say a Contoso, so a Contoso can have Contoso sales, Contoso finance, Contoso marketing, and under the Contoso sales, it can have Contoso headquarters, Contoso India, Contoso Singapore, something like that. So that's a organization-wise business units and location-wise business units or operation-wise business units we just talking about as an example. So you basically segregate and segment the users on the according to the business unit. So that's a very high level security, because you don't want, let's say you don't want users from India Contoso to access any record from Singapore Contoso. You just apply the business unit level security access, and that will restrict someone to cross access the records across the business units. So, and business unit offers security boundaries, as I just told now, for users and teams for access and privilege to data in the organization. And the foundation is, it is the foundation structure of the Power Platform. So our Dataverse. So first point is business unit, and under that you'll have teams, users, like that. And combining business units with other security models build to will cater to build a complex security system in Power Platform, which will be rock solid when you design it properly. So as you can see, the business unit will be on the top, and then you have teams, users, and then roles. Under roles, we'll see privileges and access levels shortly in the next slide. Right, let's get into the security roles. As you can see, security roles it basically defines how different a user, such as salesperson or customer service person or anyone, to access different type of records. And security roles may sound simple, but it's quite a vital part of the experience of the user, and it's very important to plays a major role in controlling the data across your environments. And it offers granular control over the record for users and teams. So what are users, what are teams, we'll see shortly in detail. And the way security role works is it applies in cumulative way. Like basically, if we have more than two security roles, let's say one security role have access to accounts records, another security role have read access to contact records. When you apply both the security roles to one user or team, so what happens is when you apply to a user, a particular user will have access to both account and contact, because it works on a cumulative way. Similarly, when you apply this to teams, all the users under the teams will be able to access that contact and account. And as you can see in detail here, you got the right side, I just tagged in this thing that you can see. The right side is the privilege, and left and down you see something called level of access. So if I step into this in detail quickly, so privilege, you will have create privilege, read privilege, write privilege, and that's your CRUD. And then you also have append to assign and share. So create, read, and write and delete are pretty much understandable by everyone. So what is append and append to? So when you build a relationship between one table or another table, like account to contact, so this defines what data can be related to what data, and append to defines basically what data can I accept, what are the other data can be added as a relationship to this to me, something like that. Yeah. And assign is basically ownership. So it basically gives, if I am working on one case record and I'm a customer service representative, for example, let's say, and I will be the owner of the case, but I can assign to someone. Let's say if I'm going on leave and I want Dharni to pick it up and work on it, I'll just assign to him, and that's what the assign permission is. And the share is something, even though let's say Dharni doesn't have access to particular case record, I can still share it to him. So how this works under the hood is, let's say, for example, like the classic example, like, let's see the levels and then we'll see the example. And let's see the levels are basically against each table or entity in Dataverse, which Dharani will show you demo, will have all this privilege, and all these levels applies across each and every privilege. So if a select has none, which means, let's say, for example, I have a let's say low level security role, right? A basic level, a basic user level security role. Let's say I've given none to case. So what does that mean? If anyone with that basic user level security role, they cannot access case because I have not given access to them. Two, basically I give none, let's say to create. which means, and I give read, let's say to user level. So what does that mean? They can read the cases that they own, they have owner, but they cannot write anything. Okay. If I give business unit level to read, what they can do is they can see all the cases under their business unit. If you remember previously what I was talking about on different structure of business unit, let's say that Dharani is working from India and he has the basic user, he can only see all the cases of that India that's under that India business unit, and he can't still create anything because he has none for create. If I give parent child business unit means, let's say contest of sales, sorry, contest of customer service is one business unit. Under that you have contest of customer service Singapore, contest of customer service India, like that. So if I give parent child business unit, and there are any can, let's say that is part of the overall contest of sales, he can see all the records of Singapore sales and also contest of India sales, and that's what it is, balance child. And organization means he can see all the cases of all the organizations across it, irrespective of what business unit he belongs to, and that's what it is. It's a very tricky thing to understand if you're new, unless you try it out and explore and read a lot about it. But this is what I could explain at the best in the given time. And please feel free to again ask any question if you have anything. And then the users. So basically users, two types of users. One is a licensed user or named users, like myself, you and Dharani can be a user in the Microsoft 365 or Azure AD. Another one is the application users. So application users are someone, it's basically app registration created in Azure, and you can have it's used for integrations or all the non-user faced interactions, right? That's the purpose of application users. And the good thing is application users are not needed to be licensed. So that's the advantage you have. So as far as your tenant has the API limits left, application users can just use that APIs. And the APIs and license are all like a major area to discuss itself. So let's not go into that. And then the teams. So you got owner teams, access team, Azure AD security group team, and Azure AD office group team. So owner team is if I have a, let's say a case, right? A record, I can just assign, similar to user being an owner, a team can be a owner as well. Moment you assign the team owner, all the users under the team will get the access. That's what the owner team. Access team is, and also owner team will have security role. So whatever security role that we discussed previously can be assigned to user or to team as well. Okay. Access team is explicitly used to share records. So we should talk about sharing here. So let's say Dharani doesn't have a security role to, let's say, uh, write cases, right? I mean, the perform edit operation on the cases. Okay. Which means like in the security role, I am not giving, I only give Dharani to basically write on user level, which means whichever the case he is owner, he can only edit that case. Okay. But what you can do via share is, even though the case that I am owner of, right, I can still, I'm muting you. So over case that I'm owner, I can still share it to Dharani, and then I can specify that he can edit that case. So what happens, even though as per security rules, Dharani cannot edit a case that he is not owner of, it's because I shared and to the access team, and either I can share to directly to individual or share it to a access team. When I share, I specify that he can edit it, then he can edit it. So remember, security works in cumulative. So it's not just one thing, multiple things can combine and work on the cumulative approach. Okay. And the third team is Azure AD Security Group team. It's very similar to owner team. It's created in the Azure Security AD level and synced to Dataverse. So instead of creating directly in Dataverse. And also Office Group teams is very similar to Security Group team. It's created in the M365 group level. Sweet. Right. And so if you see what happened is, we started with very high level security. That's the Azure AD group. And then we went to DLP, sorry, in Dataverse, we started with business unit and then security. Now we are slowly getting to more granular level of security feature that you can see. And sharing, I just explained in the previous slide. So I can just share any record to a user or a team, even though the user or a team, as per the security role, doesn't have access. While sharing, I can specify what they can do, and they can so that they can do that specific. They get that access on that specific record. Yeah. So please keep note, sharing large number of records will have performance degradation. There is certain thing that happens behind the scene. It creates a entry in the table called POA, Principal Object Access Table, and it creates lots of uh, relationship. And then and also the more you share, every time the user, if there are any logs in the CR in the model-driven app or CRM Dynamics 365, it does all these checks and before it shows the record. So the more you do all these things, the more you have performance degradation. And entity ownership, uh, if, as I said, a case can be owned by a user, individual user, or a team. If I own a case, I am the owner of it. If let's say there's a team called a support team, a day shift support team, something like that, and that team is assigned as a owner of the case. Any team members of the team can do, they behave like an owner of that uh, case. Yeah. And there is another type of ownership called organization. So, like for example, there will be certain records like configuration records and like countries, currencies, and those kind of things in the system that comes as part of the dataverse that is necessarily not owned by anyone, right? It's not a transactional records like a case or a sales record. It's a configuration setup records. So necessarily don't nobody owns that. So it's owned by organization. Okay. So when you create a new entity or table in Dataverse, you have to be very cautious what is the ownership type you're going to set. If you think that's going to act like a or configuration kind of thing like countries, currencies, you specify it as organization. And if you think there is somebody is going to work on that, like case, tickets, sales records, quotes, uh, sales orders, invoices. So you don't necessarily set them as organization level. You set it as ownership as user or team. And you have to be very cautious because once you set it, you can't change it. What does that mean? You have to, if you by mistake, if you choose one of this, you have to end up deleting, you will be ending up deleting the table entity. And before that, we will be backing it up. I mean, you will be creating a new table. You'll be doing data migration, then deleting the old one. It's a very painful process. You don't want to get into that. If you're not sure which one you have to do, go with the user owned. At least that's safer that way. Right, and the last level of security is the field level security. As you can see, now we are talking about the record level, right? A ticket or invoice like that. Now we are talking about a particular field level. So a classic example is that even though, let's say, there is a salesperson who is working on to closing certain sales, still, as an administrator, I don't want the salesperson to see the credit card number of the customer. So what I can do is I can create a field level security on the credit card number field so that only the authorized persons, like maybe like administrators or someone from finance team, can see the number, but not the sales or customer service team. And that level of granular level you can control. So what we saw from overall security standpoint is all the way from tenant level, who can access the tenant, who can access the environment, who can access the connectors, and then we step into the business unit level security, then team level security, then user level security, and the record level security. Now at the end we have the particular field level security, and that's the uh, beauty of dataverse security architecture. And I'm running out of time because Dharani also needs to show demo. Let me just quickly confirm with Dharani. Dharani, are you in a position to show demo, or should I?
Yeah, I can quickly share the screen and I can walk through the demo, Jiva.
Right. Can you do that? Then I'll resume to this Power Pages because otherwise it will be too much information and
Yeah.
people will be bored. Yeah, you
Can
can
I?
share your screen. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sharing my screen. Once you're able to see my screen, then please confirm me. Sorry guys, please bear with me. My since I'm outside my bandwidth, I'm having some bandwidth issue. So you're able to see my screen, Jiva, or no?
Not yet. Yes, sir. I can see your screen now.
Okay. So now Jiva has like given a detailed session on how the governance is there in the Power Platform and what all the security features which is available in the Power Platform. Now let's take some time and understand into the system how the things are there in the place. First, I will start with the governance. So the Microsoft has brought up lots of things into the system for the governance. One is like if you go to the admin center, if you log into the make.powerapps.com, on the right hand side, you will be able to see an icon. So if you go to the Dataverse, you will be able to see a settings icon here. And if you come here you will be able to see the Power Apps Admin Center. Then if you click on this, then it will take you to the admin.powerplatform.microsoft.com. So here in one of the Jiva slide, if you see for the Power Platform governance, he has explained about like secure your tenant, and you can build some automation process, and you can monitor the activity which what is happening in your tenant. So all those things you will be able to view it from this the admin.powerplatform.microsoft.com. Here you will be able to come to the environments and what all the environments associated with this particular tenant. So all those things would be listed over here. You'll be able to monitor all those things, and it has a detailed analytics about this Dataverse, Power Automate, and the Power Apps. And if you get into this Dataverse, here you'll be see like what the call is, what the call, how many application users are calling it, and how many active users are there in the system, and how many API calls, and the API pass rate, and the executions. So all those things you will be able to see a detailed here. Like here you can see all these active users, the detailed the visualization the Microsoft has put in this admin.powerplatform.microsoft.com. So this would be really helpful for the admin to govern the Dataverse environments. Here, what mode of access is there, and what all the entities we are consuming more, and what is the system jobs total execution, and what is the system jobs pass rate, and what is the system jobs throughput per hour. Since say this environment is not used much, so we are not able to see any data here. But yeah, if the organization is effectively using the system, and here we'll be able to see all the values for this and most active plugins, and whether any plugin is causing a timeout exception, and if you are doing any integration with the Dataverse, and will be making an API call, and what is this API call statistics, how many API calls has been made, and using which application user we are making the call, and what is the method we are trying to hit, mostly using the API, most used API. All those details would be very detailed over here, and also we'll get a mailbox usage also here, like how many active users are in the organization effectively using the mailbox. So all those things would be displayed in this admin.powerplatform.com. Similar to the Dataverse, we do have the Power Automate Analytics. If you go to the Power Automate,
Guys, sorry, last 10-minute remaining. Yeah, it
yeah,
is just reminder. Yeah,
sure.
thank you.
And if you go to this Power Automate Analytics, here also like it will list all the runs of the Power Automate associated with this instance. And here you can see the usage and who has created it, whether if any errors caused, and what is the error, and if the whether this Power Automate is shared with anyone, and what all the connectors used, and how the connectors usage is there. So all those things, all those are the detailed information which is will be you will be able to see it over here. All these are Power BI dashboards. So the same thing, Microsoft, what they have done is like they have built the Center of Excellence toolkit, and over there also you'll be able to see lots and lots of visual representation of the governance with respect to the governance. So all those Power BI, some of the Power BI reports has been embedded over here. So you'll be able to get a complete the Power Automate Analytics over here. And similarly, like we will be able to see the Power Apps Analytics also here. like how many users are accessing the Canvas app or model driven app, and how many apps are there, and how the usage is there, and which from which location they are logging in, and what is the toaster is, how the service performance is there for each and every Canvas app, model driven app, and how the connectors have been used by the Power Apps, the connectors usage. So all those things would be in detail. You will be able to view it from this the Power Apps analytics here. Okay. And here, this is about the governance part. And on top of this one, Microsoft has given the Center of Excellence Toolkit. Last year, Ziva has spoken about the Center of Excellence Toolkit. We'll share that the link in the chat window. You guys can go through it. And also, even I have written a couple of technical blogs on it. I will share those links with you guys. So you guys will be able to go through that, and you will be able to set up uh, the the Center of Excellence Toolkit for your organization in order to bring the strong governance for all your Power Platform implementations. As part of the Center of Excellence Toolkit, Microsoft has also announced this ALM process in order to have the healthy deployment process. All the deployment should be in an automated way so that it will reduce the error, and also the strong governance would be put in a place. So that's the reason the Microsoft is now they are giving more and more weightage to the ALM process. As part of this, they have built the ALM accelerator, and they have deployed the ALM accelerator also into the general availability now. Like I will quickly show this ALM accelerator here. So if you see here, like you will get, and if you implement, then if you install the ALM accelerator in your instance, so it will give you, show you these two apps. One is like a Canvas app and the model driven app. And the makers will be using the Canvas app. Once the maker or the developer completes the work, they will go to this particular app. They will, here it will list all the Power Platform solutions, and if you click on a commit a solution, then it will automatically connect to the source environment, and it will export the managed solution, unpack it, and it will commit that code into a code repository. So where we are defining the source environment and the source control and all, here we have a profile. If you click on this profile, so here you will be able to see like which organization Azure DevOps it has been connected, which project, and what is the repository, and what is the deployment environments, what is the dev environment, test environment, production environment, everything it is unconfigurable. And if you configure that, then the ALM is in place. You can start leveraging this for the complete all your automation deployments. And this is about the commit solution, and the deploy solution is there. Once the commit solution is done, and if you want to promote your changes to the higher environments, then using this deploy solution, you will be able to deploy this into an higher environments. Okay. And you don't need to do anything manually. Just the maker, they need to come here and commit a solution and deploy a solution. Rest other things, this ALM accelerator will take care of it. And similarly for the makers, this is the Canvas app. And for the administrators, we do have one app here. The administrator will use this deployment user settings, deployment profiles, and the deployment request. These are all the entities associated with the deployments. Here, the deployment user settings, as I mentioned in the Canvas app, here this will have what all the functionalities are associated with this particular user, and what all the rule sets he is having. So all those things are configured over here, and generally the administrator will be configuring all those things. And here the deployment request table will be able to see like which solution has been deployed and who has triggered the deployment, when it has been deployed. So all those details will be able to see it over here. This is easily, this is, and also this is associated with the build number also. And this is connected with the Azure DevOps. So see, basically this Canvas app, it is just an interface layer. If you click on this, then in the backend, it will connect to the Azure DevOps, and it will trigger the YAML pipelines, the YAML scripts over there. So Microsoft has built a pipelines using the YAML scripts. This, if you click on this commit, in turn, it will connect to the Azure DevOps, and it will run those pipelines, and all those build and release, whatever it is running there, it will get associated with this deployment request. So this is about the governance. Now let me quickly get into the security part of it. I will quickly cover it. And, most of the things that Jiva has covered already.
Guys,
Yeah.
sorry, last 4 minutes are remaining. This is just
Yeah,
a
yeah,
reminder.
yeah. Sure, sure. I will quickly cover this part. So here we can see the settings. So there is an, if you go to the environments and if you open the environments here, you will be able to see a separate section called separate button called settings. Then if you click on that, then here you will be able to see a separate section for the security, the user permission. Like here it will have the application user. If you want to integrate your Dataverse with the other environment, then you will be creating an application user. You will be registering your on user with the Azure Active Directory in the Azure AD, and then you will get that the client ID, client secret, and you will register it over here. And with that, the other environments can communicate with the Dataverse, other systems can communicate with the Dataverse, and then business unit. So whenever the new the instance is provisioned, by default, the business unit will get created automatically. You will not be able to change or delete or rename. So it's like what all the company name which comes based on the company name, the business unit will get triggered or the created automatically. The business unit is the foundation layer for the security. All this security roles, teams, access teams, all those things sits on the business unit. And here we do have the license to role mapping. Whenever the license is assigned to an user in the Dataverse, automatically few of the security roles will get assigned automatically. So based on the license to role mapping, which we have mentioned here, and then we do have a security roles here. So as Jiva mentioned, like if a sales manager or if the salesperson is there, then if they want to log in into the system, and for a few security roles, we need to have a different set of access, and for few security roles, if you want to we need to have a different set of access, then all those things would be achieved using the security roles in the system. So you'll be able to see here. So this is users, this is the security roles. Here we will see, you can see here. So if you open this one here, it would be associated with the business unit. And if you click on this edit, then it will open you in the classic form. So here you will be able to see like what entities, what tables, what level of permission is there. So here, this AIB roles, it is having the organization level permission for the organization entity, only the read level permission is there. So yeah, all this, the complete the access is covered by the security roles. And then we do have a teams here. You'll be able to see the teams here. So yeah, you can create a team. So if you can create a multiple team, sales team, marketing team, and you can add a multiple user to that particular team, and you can apply the security role in the team wise. And here the users are there. And if you go to the users list, and it will show all the application users and the system users into the system. Application users are nothing but the user which you will use to interact with the other systems. And the normal, these are the normal users, the active users are the normal users in the system. And using this as however the licensing and the security role is assigned, based on that, the people will be able to navigate to the entities in the system. Yeah. Sorry guys, I'm not able to cover much of the demo part due to my personal emergency and the bandwidth. I'm sorry for that.
Yeah, that's all for the day, right? And I really appreciate for your time today. And it's a vast content, and I hope we covered it given time. And thank you so much, the organizing team and the attendees and sponsors. And thank you so much for over to you.